Good morning and welcome to the fresh edition of my live comments. India has been a country that has often invited a lot of admiration, not now, but from the ages. And it has invited a lot of criticism as well from not now, but from ages. And the reason for both is the same. That is the comparatively better values of life that this country shows. But since Modi took over in India, there has been a lot of vicious, wanton attack on the very characteristics of that country, which were often put forward as an excuse for flattery and a basis for envy, if not jealousy. As a matter of fact, if I see the campaign against Modi is exactly similar to the campaign against Trump. Modi is deemed and has been called a person responsible for the Gujarat riots, xenophobic, racist, so has Trump been called. Is it the blindness of populism or the liberals' calculated affront to both democracies? That is something to be seen. I do not read rag newspapers. I do not believe that biased newspapers should be followed. But there is supposed to be a supposedly national newspaper in Toronto, the rag called, which is popular, named after the capital of Ontario, Toronto Star. I consider it a rag, and I've been saying it openly for the last few years, especially after 2010 hunger strike at the Queen's Park, where more than 30 people were on hunger strike. They were seniors, they were rushed to the hospital, and the Toronto Star did not consider it a news worth printing at all, because all of them were Browns. It's a racist paper. So I don't read it, but recently, last Thursday to be precise, a friend brought to my notice an article that had been published in the Toronto Star. And believe me, I was not amazed. I was not amazed because I do not expect anything better from Toronto Star, which is in fact, as I said earlier, a rag, an anti-India, racist, yellow, garbage journalism. For example, he says that more than 40,000 crimes against Dalits, rapes, home burning, murders were reported in 2016. Has he compared it with the people who were burnt earlier? Does he not know that this time there has been an order of the government that all cases must be registered? Earlier the cases were not registered. And compared to the beginning of the century, just 17 years back, the figure is much less, especially if you look at the horrible figures percentage-wise. And even 40,000 crimes, he says more than 40,000. The 40,000 crimes that were registered were inclusive of the various caste riots that took place. And that is not something. And 40,000 cases were registered. For one crime, there can be as many as 20 accused. So 40,000 ultimately comes to about 10 or 12,000, not more than that. and in a population of 1.3 billion is nothing. And then what he has done is any rape, any home burning, he has brought it under one head. And he has repeated it. One time the writer compares it or attributes it to the Dalits, the other time he attributes to the minority community. Then he says thousands of the people have been violently displaced in a mining one. Advisors was always resisting mining. But the government policy has been very clear, and what he's referring to is Chhattisgarh, that wherever mining takes place, the company responsible for the mining has to build alternative housing. Until they build those houses, they cannot displace them. So again, this is a travesty of facts. Then he says dissenters are being persecuted under anti-sedition law, and he refers to case of Kanhaiya Kumar and others. Does he forget that in any country, calling for the dismember of the country is sedition? How can you ask that the country be divided? Yes, philosophically, political debate, it's okay. But to raise the slogans in an academic institution, and that too against the interest of the own country, if that is not sedition, can Toronto Star or its erudite scholarly writer tell me what sedition and treason is? He says that in Kashmir, the largest military occupation is always of the foreign countries, not of your own land. You move military from one place to another, it keeps on moving. There's nothing against law because you cannot position military at one place. One unit is there, you'll move the other there. And he says this is the largest military occupation. Possibly these intelligent writers don't know the difference between military placement and military occupation. 70,000 last 3 decades. And if talking of 3 decades, that is 30 years, how is Modi government responsible, which has ruled only for 3 years? This is amazing. And the worst thing, he says that on February 23, that when the Trudeau came back and left India, was the mass rape of 150 women by the Indian soldiers. This is the height of infamy. Then, this is one part. The second part is, a lot of people have been saying that Hindutva and Hindu Rashtra are the bugbears. Their bogeyman Hindu Rashtra is a contradiction in terms. The constitution by which the oath has been taken very clearly says it's a secular country. And the secularism of that country cannot be decided by one political party. The Supreme Court decision already is there that nothing can be done or no constitution can be amended that changes the basic attributes of the constitution. So how can a Hindu Rashtra be there? It is a Hindu majority country that nobody can deny. But the Minorities Commission is playing a yeoman's job in protecting the minorities. Let's take Sikhs, for example. Till today, if we compare the number of Sikhs, the population, and the positions that they hold, the income tax they pay, is marvelous. There has been a Sikh president, there has been a Sikh chief justice, there have been Sikhs who have been chief of armies. So how can you say that discrimination is there? There have been 3 Muslim presidents, there have been Muslim heads of the judiciary, there has been a Muslim head of Navy. How can you call it to be divisive? And the governors and the chief ministers are apparent. Hindu Rashtra is a contradiction in terms. And the people who talk of Hindu Rashtra are in fact those people who want to fish in the troubled waters. It is just like California saying they want to secede. Till today, Modi has not given any indication that he is an absolute fanatic. If you talk of the riots in Gujarat, there were worse riots in Delhi, there were worse riots in Gorakhpur, there were worse riots in Muzaffarnagar, there were worse riots in Bhilai, and none of those governments was under the control of Modi at that time. They were all under the control of the Congress government. As a matter of fact, if I compare the number of riots that has taken place under the Congress government at the federal level or at the state level, and compare it with riots that have taken place under the leftists and the BJP at the federal level or at the provincial level, you would find, except for one riot, that is the Gujarat riot of 2002, there have been no riots in BJP ruled states, and there have been no riots as long West was ruling West Bengal. Sorry, the left was ruling West Bengal. But at the same time, there were riots all over India in the states that were administered by the Congress. Now, is it because that the Congress appeasement policy and on one side and open encouragement to violence on the other side, while keeping on a facade of secularism, was doing the field? What happened in Delhi, Kanpur, Muzaffarnagar, Hindon, and in Bastar? And I'm talking about Bastar because the write-up in Toronto Star referred to the Adivasis. In Bastar, the Bhils had taken up arms and fought Indian army for 4 years. Continuous war was going on between Adivasis and the Indian army. Where was this press at that time? Because it was under the control of Congress. Now, I am not a spokesman for BJP, but I am a Canadian by birth and Indian. And if there is something wrong, you know that I'll be the first person to condemn that. But to imagine things and blow them out of proportion is absolutely unacceptable. The talk of Hindu Rashtra is in fact a talk which is motivated and malicious. I'm reminded of Shakespeare's play Othello, where Iago is motivated by what Shakespeare says in his absolutely unique manner, motiveless malignity. There's no reason to be malign. And the people who are condemning the federal government today are suffering from the same problem. Motiveless malignity. No, but there is a motive. The motive is to create a situation where some enemies of India can fish in the troubled waters to destabilize the country. What China had said in 2010, that there was a policy paper that they want to divide India into 22 states with the help of Pakistan. So they can have a motive. The opposition parties in India can have a motive. But the people who talk of Hindutva are not only those. For example, many Sikhs talk of Hindutva, and when I talk to them, that how is the concept of basic Hindutva different from the concept of Sikhism, except for one part, and that is a discrimination against human beings. The concept of casteless and untouchables is not in Sikhs, but Why do they forget that when Ambedkar came to them, to the Chief Khalsa Diwan and the Sikh leadership, to accept Dalits as Sikhs, they refused to do so. Though all the 5 chosen disciples of Gobind Singh were Dalits. They are Sikh Dalits, but they are no Dalit Sikhs. There's a difference. And mass conversion of Dalits was refused by the Sikhs. Why did they do that? Can anybody answer me? That means instinctively, and even now the Sikh leadership is divided between Jat and non-Jat. So, and if I look at the Hindu Sikh scriptures, the name of Ram, Krishna, Gopal, and curiously, do you know that when so-called Khalistan was assumed, what they had the national song? It was De Shiva Varmohe, Lord Shiva, give me a boon. So they were worshipping Lord Shiva, all right, but they are hesitant if the same holy song of Sikhs is recited by Modi. Wow, what stupidity. If it was not funny, which it is disastrous for themselves. To talk of Hindutva in India is like saying that Ahmadiyas would rule Pakistan. It's simply not done. And I think it's the high time we stop bashing India for something they have not done. We stop bashing India for imagined reasons. We stop creating bogies of Hindutva and Hindu Rashtra and create and deem that country to be what it is, an island of secularism where minorities can thrive, and they do thrive without any hesitation, where Supreme Court is very active, very vocal, and it's trying to break all the shackles that bind the minorities and the marginal sections of societies. For the first time, India, after a gap of 10 years, it was going up a lot internationally, but after Mrs. Gandhi, the stock fell down, and now it's coming up again. Let's not vitiate the atmosphere. Thank you.